In this video, I'm going to teach how to play spiccato on the cello. Yep, of course it could be applied to all the other string instruments, but I'm a cellist, so I'm just gonna play the cello. Wow, okay, great. Just a disclaimer, there are different types of spiccato, ranging from a spikier sounding spiccato to a smoother sounding spiccato. I do think it's important to start with a smoother sounding spiccato. It sets a strong foundation for other off the string strokes such as sauté. If you start off with a spiky spiccato, and I notice with a lot of my beginner students, the bow will just glide off the string without really activating each string or giving each string the weight it needs for it to sound good. So let's start with this smooth spiccato. So the first thing we're going to focus on is the movement of the bow. I think we're going to work smaller details first, and then we'll expand on different exercises, methods, and then repertoire to practice. So the first thing I would think about is, I like to call it the smiley face, or if you were to be in a bathtub with some water, you can imagine your hand going into the water and then out of the water that way. We don't have a bath here, but we've got a sink. Let's get to the cello. So, I'm here to provide you with some lovely commentary, and what I'm doing here is just doing the smiley faces that I was trying to explain earlier. And as you can see, I'm trying to keep the height of my bow exactly the same, and I'm trying to get into the string as gradually as possible. Don't do this. I see a lot of beginners do this. They force their bow down onto the string with their index finger and the rest of their arm weight. But what you can do, as I'm demonstrating here, is to just lightly touch the string first before you play. And then gradually you anticipate the movement. So here what I'm trying to show you is how my arm weight is affecting each bow stroke. So just in that smiley face. And gradually speed it up over a decade. It's gonna take a while. The next thing, the down bow and up bow need to sound exactly the same. So that means the movements on the string should be exactly the same. So that's something to look out for. Here's what you don't want to hear. Imagine that you're at a rock concert and both your down and up bows are downbeats, okay? And then you rock your head and your whole body to each bow stroke. Do it slowly and then see if you can speed that up, and it will help dramatically. First couple of methods I would do is practice all of them down bow, just to get the same circular motion and sound. And then you do the same thing for up bow. So try your best not to overpress on the descent, because then you'll just get a bunch of bounces. Or the other way around, you let the bow drop and then the hair hits the string and then you press. You'll also create additional bounces that way. So what you have to do is really control the descent of your bow, and I suggest using your pinky to hold the heaviest part of the bow, which will be at the frog, the end of the frog, the tip of the frog, the end of the frog, to control the descent. Then I'll play duplets. So to get a even down bow and up bow, another thing that you could do is to play triplets, just so that you've got an impulse on the down bow and up bow. And that's very important. So here I'm just giving the impulse to each beginning of the triplets, just to feel what it's like. And then after that, I would impulse every single stroke. Just like in that rock concert analogy that I gave earlier, try to have impulses in every single one of your down and up bows. And then in terms of exercises and repertoire, I think it's most important for a beginner or anyone that's trying to develop the spiccato to just do it with any of their repertoire, and to make it simpler so that your mind is just focusing on the right hand, I would probably first do it with open strings, and then I'll combine it with left hand scales, let's say. You don't even have to do scales, but if you can't improvise, you can do scales first, and then later on you could practice from first position, any notes in first position, second position, third position, fourth position. You can even go up really high in the instrument just because the bounce that you feel will differ depending on which note you're playing on. Another thing to keep in mind, just to add on to the other point where every note will feel a little bit different in terms of the bounce, but you'll feel the most drastic change when you're string crossing. So on the A string, you won't need to put as much effort into your bow stroke as opposed to, let's say, your C string or the lowest string on your instrument. What I'm doing here is just showing that you should be gradually lifting up the weight as you go across to the A string and then getting heavier when you get back to the C string. And don't mind the squeaks. In terms of exercises, apart from scales, you can do popper, and those are very advanced, but you can do popper 1, 19, and 27. And then for beginners, I would suggest doing the Sevchek variations. There's variation 2 that focuses on spiccato, and there's a few others as well. So this is the Sevchek variation number 2. Which focuses on spiccato, and you can see here that I'm carefully lowering my bow. As the hair touches the string, that's when I apply a little bit more pressure gradually. So this is a very bite-sized version. I would practice this with specific types of methods, but I'll keep it simple for now. Maybe I can do another specialized video just on that variation. But most of the time, I would just practice the spiccato everywhere. Even if you're just playing a piece without spiccato, I would just practice doing duplets and triplets on whichever note you want. And I think that's the best way and the quickest way for you to develop that spiccato. Here I'm just warming up on popper 27, getting that bow stroke nice and even on the same note first, and then applying it slowly to all of the notes. If you're practicing this for the first time, you should do it much slower. So don't do this. I'm just trying to make a nice sound on every single string and trying to avoid a very spiky spiccato at the beginning. Bottom line, just practice it everywhere. Okay, so here are some orchestral excerpts. We have Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6, Movement 3, Mozart's The Magic Flute, and Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream. This is the Tchaikovsky excerpt. It's what it should sound like. And here I'm just playing it slightly slowly, and just making sure that I have a nice even bounce on each stroke. And I would suggest that let's say you get to a random note, let's say E flat or something, and it's a weird string crossing. I would just practice that over and over again, slowly, and just trying to apply all my aforementioned techniques. This is the Mozart excerpt, just trying to get a nice sound. I think at this point I'm not even focusing on the dynamics, I'm just trying to get a good bounce. And yeah, just practicing the weight, anticipating the weight of each string. Oop, wrong note. And this is the Mendelssohn excerpt. I'm just trying to get a nice bounce. Basically, I'm doing the same techniques for everything that I practice. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, then that's good. It means I didn't make something terrible. Something that makes sense. Anyway, that's cool. See you in the next one.